answer yes with that. We're going to do basically a Q&A where we're just going to have an hour of asking questions. Please feel free, if called upon, to take off your video and you can unmute yourself as well to ask your question, or you can just add it in the chat box. That's no problem. My dog is getting ready to play. If you can hear her in the background, she's like, yeah, let's go. I can answer some questions. I do have a little presentation to start off with first, just because some of you may be new to what PAC is, and you may not know what PAC is. So let me share my screen here quickly, and then we'll get started with that and learn a little bit about PAC. All right, so welcome everyone. Thank you again for being here. We're so excited to have you. What is PAC? What is PAC? Really, we are a third-party independent testing council. So we create the tests for the pet services industry. And basically, it's a stringent testing that reflects a professional's knowledge of animal care. It's a 3-year certification. And in order to renew that certification, they need to do continued education. So for today, you will earn 1 CEU if you are PAC certified and you're on the call. I will have that ready at near the end of our Q&A, and I will let you know what that is. So again, we're a third-party certification, which we think is truly important. And kind of why it's important is, here's some differences that you can see on the screen between what is a certificate and what is a third-party certification. So there's a huge difference. And kind of the main ones that I think that highlight for me is it results from an assessment process. So just getting a certificate, when I got my trainer certificate, I took a course, I got a certificate, I passed, I could become a dog trainer, woohoo. But the PAC certification says that I actually know how to take care. I've been tested not by the course people, but by an independent third-party council that says, okay, here's a list of questions, here's some skills and knowledge. What do you know? And that third party tells that I know what I'm doing. It's awarded by a third-party standard organization. It indicates mastery and competence, as I was just saying. And has ongoing requirements. So that's kind of the most important difference between a certificate, which never ends. It just hangs up on your wall forever. So I could have gotten it in 1939 and I never have to do anything or prove anything since then. And where with a third-party certification, I have to have ongoing education and with the times and the right information to be passed out to our pet parents. And again, there's no relationship with attaining higher education or degree. So those are some of the differences that you can read and see there. If you are a professional and you're on this call, I want to ask you, do you know what you're doing when it comes to caring for people's pets? And are you good at it? And if so, I'd like you to prove it. If you're a pet parent on this call tonight, and we thank you for being here, I want you to ask these questions to your professional pet services providers and ask them, prove through third-party certification that they know what they're doing. The next exam, if you're interested, June 10th to 24th is our next exam cycle. And May 10th is the registration deadline. We just missed the February one. So now you got to do it for the June 10th. So get those registrations in and let's get some more certified professionals in the world. So don't forget, if you want to learn a little bit more, you can go on to our Facebook study group. I'll put all the links in the chat box as well. You can visit us at paccert.org if you have any questions, and then you can join our PAC social page as well. So thank you very much. That is my little spiel to share with you guys. And that is it. I think I stopped sharing that. I think we can see the screen now. I think my technological skills worked there. So without further ado, I would love to introduce Dr. Jen and Dr. Jason Chatfields. They're from the Chat with the Chatfields, and I will put in all their links of all their information as well. They're incredible people, but I'm going to let them introduce themselves because then they can share as little or as much as they'd like before we get started with our very first question. So thank you so much for being here today. I know, Jason, you gotta head out early, so thank you so much for being here. So that means we're going to harass you specifically for the first part of this portion.
That's no problem. And I don't know if we can introduce ourselves better than incredible people, so I'm good with that. So
I am too, and I will introduce Cosette because then I either have to mute her or I have to put her down. Because she will keep grunting at me for food or something.
Well, she's going to grunt the answer. So, I mean, this is perfect.
Oh, then there's that. There is that. Yes. Hey, Kathy. Kathy's like a number one fan.
I love it.
Yes, we love it. And hey, Cosette says, hey, and Kathy, she is really missing you because she's being treated horribly here.
Obviously, look at her.
Obviously. Yes.
I love it.
So yes.
I love it.
Okay. So I'm going to put her down, but really we are here really to kind of, I guess, answer any questions, Jason, that do we have
that
any?
we can answer? Oh no. Yes.
We're
able to answer.
I think Pac actually solicited some earlier, right?
We
Did you have some ready? Okay. Some early.
And for those that are here and joining us, Stephanie says she has so many questions. I love it. I have a big list as well. But for those that would like to ask, please, in the chat box, anytime, please ask a question, and we will get to it. We may not get to everybody's in the hour, but we will get to as many as we can. All right. So I've got first question. So what is the number one health concern for our pets today? Ooh.
This is a right or wrong answer, isn't it? Like sometimes we get to just kind of opine, and like most veterinary questions, you ask 3 vets, you get 4 answers, right? But this one is like a real deal.
Wait, this is a right or wrong?
Oh yeah, this is a right or wrong.
Oh, I'll get to it then. I'll let you handle that one then.
And Tonda actually stole our thunder. She put it in the chat. It's obesity. Yeah, number one problem with pets because it leads to so many other problems. Yes, as everyone knows. In fact, so much so that like when I'm in the exam room and somebody brings me a pet that's not obese, I thank them. And sometimes the staff is like, that dog is really skinny. I'm like, nope. That dog is living its best life. It's just not fat. Yeah.
Yes. Right. And my dogs are both really lean as well. And if I post videos of Molly on the training page or whatever, I often will get private messages of your dog is too thin. And she's a boxer. So she's got those little lines that cover her ribs too, that kind of make them look like
my
ribs,
goodness.
But she's brindle, right?
I was going to say, is she brindle?
You're seeing just her color lines. That's it.
Yes.
But she's beautiful score. And that's so important. I tell my clients too, we don't want them too skinny, but we're putting so much trouble on them.
And society's so used to seeing all these animals overweight that it really is kind of another problem that they don't know what a good healthy pet should look like, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that starts to be the first conversation that we have to have with a lot of them. So.
What can we do to create that healthy weight? What does that look like?
Well, for me, it starts off with everyone understanding what does that even look like? How do you measure that? Because there's so many variations. I mean, look at Cosette, right? Like she is a chunk. She is a very dense creature. She's very stout, but she's very fit because she's the farm fresh Frenchie. So how do you compare her to like a hound dog? Right. So what we look at is body condition score. And there's a lot of different ways you can assign a number to it. I really try to avoid that with pet owners because numbers imply really a grading system. And you're already a great owner because you came to the vet, right? So what I tell people is that there's a couple things I should be able to do. I should be able to not see their ribs, but easily feel them. Right. And if I have to stick my hand in like this far to feel ribs.
Yeah. If your fingers disappear a little bit, you got a little too extra. Right.
Right. But I don't want to see them. But now, sorry, brindles.
I know, right?
If your ribs are outlined with your brindle, it's easier. But you know what I mean? If I look, I can't see like their coat doesn't go in and out with the ribs. So you want to be able to easily feel them, but not see them. I should, when I look down from above the creature with their head facing away from me, I should see a barrel chest, and then I should see a nice little waist. And then I should see it flare back out again at the hips. And then if I look from the side, I should see a nice tuck, a nice abdominal line that goes along the sternum, the center of the rib cage here, underneath them, and then tucks up nicely up into the flank. And if any of those things are not there, then ask your veterinarian.
Beautiful. Maya wanted to say hi and just to showcase how lean she is too. You can't see her, but yes. Awesome. Yes. So Stephanie asks, stress colitis, how to handle treatment, when to see a vet. Good question.
Wow. There's only an hour?
I know, right?
I know because my presumption is that most of the folks that are on right now are probably PAC members, maybe, or potential PAC certified folks. Yeah. What's up? Stephanie's showing up.
I showed up because it was my question, and I feel like you have the right to look me in the eye when I ask the question. So I'm looking at, there's some pet parents on here. There's some pet care professionals, people who work in facilities. So for me as a facility owner, at what point, dog comes in, I called it stress colitis for a reason. It's obviously stressed in a new environment. I didn't just call it, whatever, unknown diarrhea. But stress colitis, and they're spewing, they're doing whichever, they're dropping, and at what point, there's a school of thought, fast them for this long, and then don't, and then what is the course of treatment? Hey, Bill.
Yeah, I feel like Bill wants to chime in.
I think he does too. And when do you see it?
No, I love you guys, but no. But I will interrupt Stephanie.
Yeah. Okay. Classic. Yeah. Okay. So this is a big issue. It's a big issue for pet owners. It's a big issue for facilities, and it's a huge issue in urgent veterinary care, because when is stress colitis something you should ignore? When is it something that you need to jump on and seek care? So for me, that answer is different depending on who's asking from what perspective. Right? Would you say, Jason, or you think it's all the same?
Well, I'm quiet because I don't understand who is asking, right? And so if this is from the facility owners, I would have somebody on speed dial just to make sure, because I would say that that's a tough decision to make for anybody given the situation that these guys are in.
Yeah.
So
Yep. So that's my point, right? Like if it's my dog and I am 100% aware of whatever the environmental stressor was that brought on this episode of colitis, if they have a history of this colitis, then I would tell that pet owner that they should likely. Every dog is different. Again, like our disclaimer, we are not offering specific veterinary advice for your creature, right? We're not telling you what, that would be inappropriate on over Zoom. Okay. So unless we already know you and we love you, and then it's called telehealth. But anyway, so if it's my dog and they have an episode of diarrhea, and I know it's stress colitis because, I don't know, Jason and his 16 kids were just over, right? Playing with them.
Yeah, that causes stress to everybody. I probably have my own
everybody
episodes,
out.
Right? So
then I'm probably going to switch to a bland diet for the next day or so. And for me, a bland diet looks like canned chicken because I'm lazy and I don't like to cook it myself. So I just get the canned, and white rice, and the chicken broth out of the can also added on there for extra flavor. Looks like that. If that persists beyond 12 to 24 hours, or I see an escalation of signs, like they had diarrhea and now they're vomiting in diarrhea.
Yeah, or blood or something like that. Yeah.
Or there's blood, or it gets even less like actual stool.
It's like water.
Just like water. Right. Any sort of progression, then I'm going to the vet immediately. Right. But if nothing else happens and everything gets better, I move on with my life. Okay. It is for me, the line in the sand when I talk to pet owners, when you come in and you say, we've had diarrhea now for a day and it's gotten worse, right? It's increased in frequency, it's decreased in consistency, and now they don't even want to eat the chicken and rice. Then at that point, then I'm going to start looking for what's causing this. Did it escalate to something else? And my line in the sand on how I'm going to treat that aggressively or not aggressively Well, I kind of always treat aggressively, but
Yeah, I was wondering what that line was going to be because I've only ever seen you on one side of that line. So,
all right then, is whether or not they're vomiting. Because if they're vomiting, they cannot help me help them. So then they have to stay in the hospital. If they're not vomiting, then I'm going to treat them outpatient, send them home. If I'm a facility, if I'm a boarding facility, if I'm a groomer, if I'm anything, then I'm going to handle this much differently because it's not my dog. Just as if I was dog sitting for a friend, if their dog breaks with diarrhea, I'm not waiting. As a facility owner, I'm going to reach out to the owner, let him know, unless we've already been through this before. Again, this is like the initial time it happens. I'm going to let him know, and I'm going to already have in place something that maybe they've agreed to as like our protocol when we see stress colitis is we start with blank, right? And I would start any dog unless they have a food allergy that you're aware of, unless they have some other issue that precludes it. I would say our first thing we're going to do is we're going to start them on bland diet, which is not going to be their food. It's going to be chicken and rice, or it's going to be EN, or it's going to be ID, or one of those super bland for intestinal upset commercial preparations, right? And then if it doesn't resolve, like let's say you find it in the morning, they have it in the morning. If it's not resolved by that afternoon, I'm calling the vet at the end of the day.
Yep. Excellent. Now, this kind of leads to a next question, because a lot of people don't know the difference, and even some professionals don't really know the difference. What is the difference between vomiting and regurgitation?
Oh, that's a good question that we have to say a lot all the time. So vomiting is something, it just has to do with the source of what they're spewing out. So regurgitation is usually the timing is closely associated with eating, and they're basically just regurgitating food they just ate, right? It's undigested. They ate it too fast. Cosette ate way too much. She'll walk away and she'll say, yep, that was too much too fast, and Ralph it out. But it looks like food. You can identify it. Vomiting is not associated with close timing with eating and indicates a larger pathology.
And there's also usually a lot more abdominal, kind of a whole system happening here. It's like when you vomit, it's like a whole thing, right?
Yeah.
You're like done,
The
out,
production.
quick and easy. All right, listen, I have to go. I'm super sorry. I know we just got started, and I see some of the questions, especially about CBD. I think those are great, but I have no choice. I'm sorry. I
No
wanted to say
worries.
hi.
Thank
Yep,
you so much
I'm
for
out.
being here.
Yeah,
He's the CBD guy too.
I'm so glad I could provide so much information for everybody. So I won't charge anybody. So there you go. Bye. It's good to see all of you guys, and we'll catch up later. Okay.
Bye, Dr. Jason.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
I'll see you. Yes,
All right.
It's the aforementioned horde of children that are drawing his time this evening.
You gotta be in 10 different places, and you only got one car, and I get it.
Yes. Even with grandma and grandpa helping. Yes.
So next question about supplements. When should you start larger dogs on joint supplements? For example, she has an 80-pound mixed dog who is a year old, and she wants to do everything to prevent bad joints, as she's seen it in her senior dog, and wish I started sooner with him. Thanks. That was from Ashley. Thank you.
Okay.
Ashley.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Ashley. Yeah. So you can start them early and often. Yep. Early and often with joint supplements with, especially with large breed dogs. You can really start any dog on a joint supplement early and often, but we really promote it. In fact, even now some of the commercially available dog food are incorporating glucosamine and chondroitin and the eggshell membrane and all this stuff into the food because they've figured out a way to process it where during the extrusion and all of this, they don't deactivate it or denature it. And so it's effective still. So yeah, anytime. And it's never too late either. Like you're sitting there with like a 10-year-old whiney or something at home. Hey, it's okay. Go ahead and start now. It's not a problem. Yeah.
Great question. Heidi asks, can you speak to the use of CBD? Dr. Jason wanted this one so bad. For anxiety in dogs that board. Is it effective? Snake oil? Those are some of the questions she had with that.
Yeah. So that's a tricky question. I'm glad we're getting to that one early. So that's a tricky question because there is a lot of science behind CBD. Okay. So CBD is not pot but it comes from pot, comes from cannabis, the plant, right? Cannabis sativa. It's only one of like 200 something chemicals, terpenes, they call them, in cannabis. We really only know what like 4 or 5 of them do. We've only just started to investigate the value of this plant. And so some folks are representing that CBD is like this panacea for anything that ails. And so snake oil does come into play, right? For our younger participants, snake oil salesmen were when the stagecoach would come through town and there would be a guy saying, Dr. Smith's tonic. It was basically snake oil in a jar with some alcohol. Always had alcohol in it. Or it was sometimes opium. But anyway, okay. All right. So you could Google it. It's on the History Channel. So CBD, we do know, is effective with anti-inflammatory issues. We know for a fact that it has anti-inflammatory properties. So it's effective against stuff like joint disease, etc. Okay. And then thank you, Heidi. I work at it. And we don't know. I have not yet seen published scientific data that supports CBD's efficacy with anxiety in dogs. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't work. I'm going to say that one more time. I am not saying that it doesn't work. I am telling you that I have not yet seen published data for that. Okay. I do think that there is variable sensitivity among dogs, just like people, for CBD oil. Incredible variations. When you combine that with the incredible lack of regulation for CBD-based products, then you can have kind of a mess. And so I think that if you're going to give CBD to dogs, they need to be your dog. I don't recommend facility operators ever give CBD to a dog unless the owner drops it off and says, here, give this to my dog. And I think that there are very few pharmaceuticals, to include CBD, that are effective for anxiety in the face of such severe anxiety as being dropped off for the first time ever with no desensitization, never been around other dogs, etc. Nothing is going to alleviate that anxiety with that dog. It's just, you could sedate them, knock them unconscious. That might help, right? But I don't think that relying on CBD for that sort of anxiety is appropriate or effective. But yeah, so some people have seen that it works well. I have not yet seen data.
A great answer. So Bill, he asks, I'd like to bring up CIV and the appropriate response from a facility standpoint. Great question.
Yeah. Do you have a problem, Bill?
No, we don't. I want to elaborate for just a moment to clarify my question. What we're getting, so we have associates of ours, fellow pet care facility owners in Maryland are going through this bout of what they thought was canine cough, which it would have, with a very steep bell curve, it would be pretty intense. And now it's already coming back down over a series of a week. We experienced that at our facility in Charlotte, North Carolina. We have 2. And at both of them, we experienced that same bell curve back right before Thanksgiving. And we, again, chalked it up to, well, it's some form of canine cough, respiratory thing. Well, they had a panel done and it came back as CIV. And what their theory is we really got 2 things going on with this. We've got some dogs who are just getting that bronchitis type thing, but some dogs are getting the full on flu. And they've had vets in their area recommend that, well, you guys need to essentially shut down to stop the spread. And so without giving my opinion, I'm just really interested on your take on, say that is happening, let's forget what that other vet said. What do you recommend? And how do you, when you think about pet care facility responsibility around this, from communication to cleanliness, what does that look like?
So That is a very good question. I was laughing when you brought that question up because I don't know if do y'all hear it? Can you hear it right now?
No.
It's me dragging out my soapbox. Okay. Like, I don't know. Maybe anyway, now I'm going to stamp both feet on it and carry on a little bit. Okay. So for me, to speak to that entire topic, number one, what is your responsibility as a facility? Number one, your responsibility is to protect the dogs under your care as best you can. You can only do that with the help and cooperation of the pet owners who are using your facility, right? And you do that by having your protocols in place for protecting the group of pets that are going to be in your care. That's called vaccine requirements, right? So for me, if you are requiring, I'm going to say it, Stephanie. If you're requiring kennel cough or Bordetella vaccination, yeah, I know. If you're requiring that and you're not requiring influenza, you would lose a lawsuit. You just would. You got to require for the risk profile. And if a dog is at risk for canine infectious respiratory disease complex, CIRDC, which Bordetella, kennel cough bacteria.
You just made Stephanie very happy. I'm just saying.
Is a component, then you need to also require influenza.
Can I add, and I don't want to, I just clarify for me the challenge we're having.
Yeah.
Let's say I fundamentally agree with that. And honestly, I do. The challenge we're having is supply chains. You can't, the vet there, and in Maryland's the same as Charlotte, there isn't enough supply to even take care of the demand from one facility let alone, like, it's just, there's not enough of it.
In the face of an outbreak?
Yeah, like meaning like if you're like, okay, we're going to require CIV vaccinations now, then there's two questions, like which strain, and then
both.
That sounds great, but I can't, like, I don't have Bordetella all day long. We're getting it, but it's just not, I guess, prevalent enough yet. There's not enough demand for it. Demand is spiking. So this is what, and so now it's like we can't fill it yet. We highly suggest you do it. Like, what are we supposed to do? Do you see what I'm saying?
Bill, if I can interject, just because I'm counting names on this screen and about half of this audience is Canadian. So I'm just putting it out there that we, in Canada, we don't have ready access to CIV vaccines.
Right.
Yeah,
so I'm just putting that out there to my friend Chantel on the West Coast, who's, and people here on the East Coast and everywhere in between, that you may not have that protocol to require CIV, but you do for Bordetella, simply because, and this is a yet situation, it hasn't made it to Canada yet, it's coming, and we know that, but I had a conversation with our vet the day before yesterday about it, and they're like, we just don't have it. We can't even get it in Canada yet.
Right. So Canada is different, and I love how Stephanie started that out by saying, let me just point this out for all the Canadians, right? I love to make fun of Stephanie. Okay.
I don't think she said it like that. I think you're making that up.
Come on now. Okay.
Show your face, Kathy.
Anyway, okay, like all kidding aside about availability and non-availability, there she is, and non-availability. Influenza vaccine production is difficult on the human side and on the side for swine, for horses, for dogs, for all of them. And it became a supply chain issue. In the face of an outbreak is not the time to vaccinate, right? That's like waving at the horses as you like go to shut the gate. Okay. So moving forward, everyone listening should require canine influenza. And if they had a vaccine that had 16 different strains in there, I would say require that one. Okay, but they only have 2 strains in North America known to circulate and be now endemic, at least in the US. I'm not sure Canada. Don't crush me on the internet. I'm not sure Canada. I know in the United States that H3N2 and H3N8 are endemic in our dog population, which means they are always circulating. Always. So if any of you asked in the chat, do we have canine flu in my area right now? I would say, where are you? And you would say, I'm in blankety blank blank. And I would say, yes, you have canine flu. It doesn't matter. It is endemic. the kind of the hang up is, and why people are able to ignore it, is because 80% of dogs will be asymptomatic. That's annoying, right? To the 20% who are going to be symptomatic. The problem is that canine infectious respiratory disease complex, you see, there's a reason I keep saying all of that, mouthful, is most often, in fact, almost always, a multi-pathogen infection. It is not just one. So you may have a positive influenza PCR. What that means is you have a positive influenza PCR. Influenza may or may not have been the inciting cause. It may just be the party crasher who stayed after the party was over. Okay. And so if you don't have canine influenza vaccine available right this very moment at your place, one thing that you can do is you can vaccinate all of those dogs, not for Bordetella, but for the most common pathogen that holds the key that unlocks the door for the party for infectious respiratory disease in dogs, and that's para-influenza. So there are a lot of, and I know my fear-free people are out there. Listen up, fear-free. The industry has listened and moved in your direction with a new product. So before December of 2022, I had no solution for fear-free except to tell people to suck it up and scare the dog. If you put it up their nose, you had to put it up their nose. Now there is an oral BBPI that actually, so it's called BBPI because it has Bordetella bronchoseptica and parainfluenza. In fact, Bordetella is not even in the top 3 combinations of most often producing systemic or even local disease clinical signs in dogs with respiratory infection. It's not even in the top 3. So Bordetella is interesting. Parainfluenza creates the vacancy. And so it also creates the vacancy for influenza to set up, right? So if you have a dog that isn't vaccinated against parainfluenza, it locally, they may have gotten an injectable, but they didn't get the local. So they didn't get the intranasal or they didn't get the oral, then that dog can have a local infection with parainfluenza that allows for decreased immunity and increased vulnerability to all the other baddies, including influenza, right? So if you can't get influenza vaccine right now, go get either the oral BBPI or the intranasal that has parainfluenza, Bordetella, and adenovirus. That's something you can do right now. And furthermore, the mucosal vaccines, look, the vaccine galaxy is moving towards mucosally administered vaccines in all species because we just now we understand that part of the immune system better. So it produces immunity faster than an injectable vaccine does anyway. So in the face of an outbreak, you want a mucosally administered vaccine. It decreases shedding. It's just fabulous. So do that, and then also start to require the influenza. And if you have veterinarians who are saying, we can't get it, well, then reach out to your pack contacts who will reach out to me, and maybe I can do what I can do. Right? I don't work for any of those companies, but I know guys who know guys. And so perhaps they can't get it. Perhaps their distributor doesn't have it. In the face of an outbreak, almost every company that manufactures a CIV vaccine will divert stock to the area. So
that's perfect to know. Thank you.
Okay, so it was
great.
long. Sorry,
that was long, but it's a long question. It's detailed, so we need that. Giving solutions. I think that's what everybody wants, right? So that's awesome, and hopefully that helps you out, Bill, with that. We have another great question here from Kathy.
She's asking for a friend.
Any questions or tips on how to know when to switch a dog to senior food? This dog is an older, smaller breed who still acts quite young. So she's not sure if she should, by pure age number or behavior change, etc.
Yep. Okay. So that depends on what's contained in the senior food versus the food she's eating now, right? And a lot of them will contain joint supplements, like joint support stuff, which look, if it's a small breed dog and they're not having GI problems, I hesitate to ever change their food. Okay. Cause small breed dogs who are happy on their food, leave them on their food. But what she could do is look into some supplements that might be helpful, because it is true, like senior dogs, they need a little extra boost. And so there's Dasaquin is one. Oh, I shouldn't say product names because no one's paying me to say a product name. But there's ones that have like the eggshell membrane, the green lip mussel, all of the, not muscle, but like muscle, like the muscle in the water. Mollusk. Thank you. That's a fancy word. So yeah. So any of those, but really most of the foods are complete, right? They have the micro and the macronutrients balanced appropriately. Mm-hmm. And so, but there are some things, so probiotics sometimes are helpful, especially as they get older. We know 70% of that immune system is in the gut. And so you want to make sure that you keep the gut healthy. Sometimes probiotics are very helpful for older pets. So talk to your vet. I mean, I should give a shout to our sponsor for the podcast, Full Bucket, because Full Bucket makes excellent everyday dog and cat supplements. So just throwing it out there. And equine too.
That's important. Absolutely. We've got a few more questions. So any solutions for dogs who have environmental allergen irritation while in the boarding facility? We see it often in white short-haired dogs.
Right, where you can totally see any blemish on the skin, and they are super good at scratching and chewing when you're not looking. Yes. So number one, my recommendation would be make sure by talking to the owner that it's not anxiety induced and that it is truly allergy related. Like if they're atopic, then their owners, this should not be a surprise. So things that you can do, you can talk to the owners about maybe not boarding them, but hiring your pet sitting service. Okay. Because changing their environment, if they have had no allergy flares, changing their environment for an atopic dog is changing a whole new world of potential allergens. You can have them bring their bedding from home so that even though your stuff is clean, it's not the same, right? Maybe you don't use the same detergent. It's got all this other stuff. Ask them, how often do they go outside? How long do they get to stay outside? And then maybe you want to put them in a non grassy place. Because grass is a problem for a lot of them. And then ask the owner about their vet, what their vet recommends for routinely administering antihistamines to prevent flares in the face of environmental stressors, such as boarding. Those are the things I would do. The other thing is, if you can't do any of those, you can always rinse the dog off a lot. Because it's environmental allergies. And it could be, so this is one thing that I actually just learned. I was reading this paper and they talked about how atopic dogs can have a flare in their skin because they inhaled some pollen. And I said, well, that's cheating because how am I supposed to know that they inhaled pollen and now they're chewing their skin off? Like, come on, how am I supposed to keep a dog from doing that? Anyway, but those are some simple things I think you can do that can make a big difference in the life of an atopic dog.
Awesome.
Okay.
Great questions, everyone. Thank you so much for participating because this is amazing. Hopefully you're learning lots and having some fun.
Yes.
Next, we have so many questions. But how often should a pet get blood work?
Oh, yeah. Oh my gosh. So what's so funny? So this just was a question I did Ask the Expert for AKC TV, and they asked the same question. So how often should they get blood work? And I said, well, if everything is going great, then we base it on age. And the reason we do that is because you should only get blood work when you can change something about what you're doing. Right. Okay. So when most dogs hit about 6 or 7 years old, that's when we start finding these subclinical cases of kidney disease, liver disease, sometimes pancreatitis. Yes, it's true. Pancreatitis can actually be subclinical. I know you don't believe me, but it's true. And so that's why we start recommending blood work when they're around 6 or 7 years old. However, there's nothing wrong with doing blood work whenever your wallet says you want to do it. Okay. But if you're not going to change anything based on the result, then don't let me do it, because it's going to irritate me and annoy your dog because they have to give the sample and then I have to look at it and say, holy moly, well, the total protein's a little low and the kidney values are creeping up. I think we should consider putting them on, an appropriate food for dogs with kidney disease. And then if you laugh and say, I'm not doing that, then everyone's annoyed in the room, right? So you should look when you're looking for something that's going to change what you're doing now, then that's when you should do it.
Love that answer. Great answer. Stephanie asks for a client, Lemmy's.
For Lemmy's owner. And I know Lemmy's name, which is ridiculous that I would know Lemmy's name.
I love that. That's why she wrote it, because you knew. She asks where to start with chronic ear infections, possible causes, treatment, prognosis. That's a loaded question.
Yeah, but this is okay. But I didn't have a great answer for that. Well, I had a good answer before, but now I have a better answer. And we actually, in our Holy Otitis ear podcast episode, we talk about the fact that a lot of atopic dogs will present they'll have beautiful skin and coat, but they'll be there for an ear infection every couple of months. Ear infection every couple of months, maybe not crazy, but ear infection. And they're actually atopic, and you're never going to get it under control until you do something about allergies. So it's not likely food allergy, right? We know food allergy does, they chew the paws. So they like feet on fire and a flaming anus is actually what we get with food allergy. Food, like the allergen causes foot problems. I don't know why it's feet, but then on the way in, because sometimes they'll get like the little acne on their face if they have food allergy, and then on the way out, right? The flaming anus. Environmental allergies present so bizarrely, but chronic ear infections now, it turns out like 95% of those dogs that have chronic ear infections, especially starting at a young age, are atopic. And so they just need to control the allergy flare and you'll get it. But if it's in your place and you notice a dog digging at their ear and you're a facility owner, what can you do? Well, you call the owner and say, look, your dog's digging at their ear. Do they have your problems? And they'll say, oh my gosh, yeah, you know what? They had it last year. Great. Okay, good. Call your vet. Who's your vet? Can I call your vet? Can we get him in? Let's get him in now. And whatever they say. But you can also get this ear cleaner. It's very fancy. I hope everyone's ready to write this down. It's super fancy. It's called Cucumber Melon Ear Cleaner. I'm joking. It's so not fancy. It's really cheap. Smells great. It has no alcohol in it, so it never hurts. You can get it over the counter. But it's my favorite one I recommend to everybody because it's not going to fix an ear infection. It will not fix an ear infection. But if you have a dog that is starting to dig at their ear at your facility and they're going to be with you for another 2 or 3 days, while you're waiting to get a hold of the owner, while you're waiting, whatever, dump some in there. You don't stick anything in their ear, but dump it in. You massage the base of the ear and you're done. You don't have to wipe it out. Just leave it in there. It smells great. Yeah.
Hey, Jen, Dr. Jen, can I have been going through this with Lemmy's parents for months now.
Okay.
And I sent them, for anybody listening, by the way, both of them are great episodes on Chat with the Chatfields. You had Got an Itchy Pet.
Oh yeah.
And you had the ear one specifically. Yeah. And I've sent those both off to Lemmy's parents and they've listened to both of them. Mm-hmm. And they were very thankful and they send their thanks, but we have been going through this. So I'm talking about trying to guide them into an educated conversation with the vet. And let's say
it's allergies.
Let's say it's environmental.
It is.
Like
it probably is.
How do you control it? Like it's not here because he doesn't board here. He just comes for daycare once a week.
Yep.
So it's in their home.
Yep.
So do they do like a Benadryl on an ongoing basis? Do they
think
that's
no?
What do they do? What do I tell them specifically?
Yeah, antihistamine likely will not touch an atopic dog, especially if they're already if they haven't been addressed, right? And they've been kind of like band-aiding over because the ear infection, right? So they need to go to their vet and say, look, I think my dog is atopic. And someone just asked you about like, how do you pinpoint the allergen? I don't care. The only reason to go through allergy testing if your dog is atopic is if you're then going to do the hyposensitization shots for your dog to decrease their allergic reaction to that substance. And what a lot of people don't realize is that they say, yeah, I'm going to do that. Or I want to do the testing, but I'm like, again, don't do the test if it's not going to change what you're going to do. So they should go to their vet. There's a couple things that they should ask their vet about. I don't know. I've never seen Lemmy. Everybody, I've never seen Lemmy. This may not be the right thing, but I would talk to him about, I would say, what about this thing called Apoquel? Right? So what we do now is we do immunotherapy for dogs with atopy. Apoquel works great. And a lot of people, if you're on here and you're familiar with Apoquel, you're doing one of two things and going, oh my God, yes, it's a miracle. Or you're going, it is laced with gold. No one can afford it. Okay. Those are the two reactions. So Apoquel is not necessarily for every dog a lifelong medication. For dogs who have seasonal allergies, maybe they only need it for a month. And it's a pill every day. For everybody who doesn't know, it's a pill every day. But you can't just start Apoquel. Like Lemmy, we'll use Lemmy as the example. So Lemmy has ear infections that are ongoing. Lemmy probably also has mild pyoderma everywhere. He's just focused on his ears. And so what you have to do is an ear cytology and a skin cytology, because you need to know, is there bacteria overgrowth? Is it rods? Is it cocci? And is there yeast or no? Because then we have to address those, because even if we get the allergy under control, now the infection is present, it will cause the itching to persist. So you have to hit everything. And then with those dogs, when I start a dog on that, I also start him with a fire hose that puts the fire out. And it's called, brace yourselves, steroids. There is an appropriate place and use for steroids. It is not a long-term medication, and it shouldn't be unless there's no other choice for the pet to live comfortably, right? But steroids are really good at stopping the itch, because I can't tell the dog, like I can tell the child, stop itching. I can't monitor the. So we have to stop them from chewing their skin off and make them more comfortable. I'm getting to Lori's stealing my thunder a little bit. I'm getting to Cytopoint. If Apoquel is not something, if you can't medicate your dog regularly, if it just doesn't work, right? I tell people try it for 2 weeks for their dog. When I start them, look, put the fire out with a short acting injection of usually dexamethasone. I do the cytology on the ear and the skin to determine what we have going on. And I treat that. And I start them on Apoquel and I make them do 2 weeks. And then I see them back in 2 weeks. Okay. Also they must be on a flea and tick prevention that's appropriate. For me, in a dog like this, it's only Bravecto. That's the only one. It's the most efficacious over long term. And there's data to prove that. Okay. So that's what I do. And if you're not willing to do all that, then I'm not willing to hear complaining later that your dog is still itching.
What's the name of that one? And do we have it in Canada?
Bravecto?
Yeah.
I think you have Bravecto in Canada.
We have it in Canada. Yep.
Yeah.
Our vet seems to want to give NexGard a lot.
Okay.
Awesome. Great
But
question.
now I know what to ask for.
Yes, absolutely. And Prevecto is definitely in Canada for sure.
Yeah.
Chantel asks.
Oh, wait. Can I interrupt? So with Cytopoint, so if Apoquel doesn't work, or you can't medicate your dog regularly, or you just don't want, some owners just don't want to give a dog a pill every day, because it does enter into your relationship with the pet. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so Cytopoint is an injection that is similar. It has a similar mechanism of action to Apoquel. It's immunotherapy for atopy dogs. And you can give it as once every 28 days. And you can give it as needed. So what I also do, I do all the same things to start off. We eliminate infection that might be present by doing the cytology and fixing that. I put the fire out with a steroid injection because the Cytopoint injection takes a few days to ramp up in the system. And so I put the fire out today because it's miserable. And then as that steroid injection wears off over like 2 days, the Cytopoint is up to speed, right? And then we're off and sailing. I tell owners, if you're going to start on Cytopoint, commit to 2 injections, 28 days apart. And then when it's time for the third one, you could go, I think we're okay. We're going to go another week or another whatever. Okay. Some dogs have to have a couple side point injections and then they're good for a year. And then they come back because they kind of start up again because it's seasonal. Some dogs, especially fluffy dogs, have to have it every 27 days and 23 hours and 59 minutes. Right. So you just have to see. But these are tools that we didn't have even 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they are game changers for atopy in dogs. Okay. Sorry, Jamie.
No, that's absolutely. We want the full answer. So yes.
Yeah. But Lemmy definitely needs to have that evaluation, conversation with the vet about Apoquel cytology to determine what's going on, to get that cleaned up and then prevent the next one with.
Well, I asked it specifically on this so that they're going to actually watch this and I'll say, Dr. Jen is going to say Lemmy's name and listen to what she says. And that's why I wanted to make sure, because they will absolutely,
They're good owners.
Listen. They're fantastic owners. I love them to bits. They've been here forever.
They love their pet.
They love their pet and they want to fix it. So I'm just kind of going down this journey with them to try to guide them on what questions to ask.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not a vet. You're a vet from a distance. I just want them to have an educated conversation with their vet.
And that's part of it, is knowing what questions to ask. And, because sometimes a vet, maybe they're having an off day. Maybe they just don't, there's a lot of things that happen. And so we need everyone in the room working towards the same outcome, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And this kind of, the next question from Chantel is kind of similar in a sense. Is seasonal alopecia common in certain breeds? She has a rescue who in the past 2 years has been part of the family. It has come to be that she has lost a fair bit of her coat as the cold winter months have come about. So is that,
so are we talking about patches of hair missing, Chantel, or just thinning areas?
Yeah. So she's lost quite a bit of her undercoat, like under her throat, under her groin area, under her arms. And it's just there. At first I thought possibly it was from stress that came through, because she had come with us in August and then it showed up 3 months later. But this is the second year in a row this has happened.
Yeah. So seasonal alopecia is not necessarily a common thing for dogs. Okay. People talk about Frenchie, right? French bulldog, regional alopecia. Yeah. I panicked on that because I thought, now listen, Cosette, don't be dropping your fur everywhere. Okay. But that's like smooth skin, like bald spots, right? Like Chinese hairless dogs, that's alopecia. Okay. That's not normal in fully haired or fully furred dogs. Seasonal changes in their coat are normal, but balding spots are not. So especially if she does it at the same time every year, if there's no inflammation associated, no skin inflammation associated with it, if she doesn't even know what's happening, she's like, oh, is that gone? Well, only when you're looking at it, right? She doesn't care otherwise. Then I would say that's related to her. And that's just going to be a seasonal thing for her with her hair coat. I don't think it's wise for her to choose to do that before the winter.
I know, right? What a worse time to lose your hair.
I know. Come on now. But
so we got about 5 minutes left, and let's see how many questions we can get through.
Okay, I gotta go for Kathy's. Kathy put one in.
Okay. Okay.
I was just going to say, maybe
I haven't seen that one yet.
That
I haven't scrolled down yet. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I love this one because I deal with it. We deal with it all the time. My life is so glamorous that anal glands, fecal exams, this is it, right? Vomit,
awesome.
Digging through the vomit. So let me see. I have to read it again because I read it a while ago. So the anal glands, are the horror stories about anal glands, but you've never had to do anything with that. Okay. Your anal gland stuff from others so often that you're feeling paranoid and worried you think you're missing something. Wait a minute.
Right? I'm like, should I be doing something?
Everyone says, oh, you'll know. And you're I don't want to know that way. I want to know before. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So this is a funny thing because it is kind of a, if you know, right? Anal glands. So I get to vet school, right? I'd grown up with animals on the farm, whatever. I think it was my second year in vet school before I even really knew what anal, like in anatomy, they were like, there's anal glands. And I'm like, there's a lot of glands, right? Like, why are these so much more important than others? Second year, my roommate had a beagle and she's like, what are you talking about? You're not familiar with anal glands and that you have to do anything with them. I'm like, nope, we must have had good dogs. I don't know. I don't know about you. So anyway, so you're not alone. Okay.
Thank you.
And now that I have a French bulldog, I definitely know about anal glands. So anal glands.
Yes.
So for everybody who doesn't know, like if you look at your dog's rear end, the anus, right, that is like, it's a circle. Well, it ought to be a circle. And then sitting, if you look at that as a clock, sitting at 5 o'clock and 7 o'clock are two glands. And they're basically like these two sacs of fluid. There's a gland that secretes the fluid into there and whatever. Now, dogs normally should express the anal glands and the stuff in them when they defecate normally, right? It's like a territory thing. It's a dog thing. They just do it. Okay. Not all dogs do that because our dogs are domestic dogs, right? Okay. So we do things for them. If your dog does not normally express their anal glands on their own, doesn't make them a bad dog, doesn't make them a lazy dog, just makes them a dog who doesn't express their anal glands on their own. So you need to do it, or you need to take them to the vet or the groomer or an appropriate location with people who know how to do it. Okay. There's all kinds of YouTube videos. If you want to know how to do it at home, you could try it. Most people that I encounter that ask about that, doing it at home, they go to YouTube and they're immediately making an appointment because they don't want to do it. Okay. You should do it with your mouth closed.
Oh, that's a definite. I've been in the clinic where it's gone into a vet tech's mouth wide open.
Okay. Because what
Not
you're
her best
doing,
day.
right. Okay. So for lack of a better, like the physics surrounding how the anal glands are expressed. So there's this little duct, in the anus is a muscle, like there's the anal sphincter muscle. And like on the inside of it, there's this little duct that opens and it goes from the anal gland, from the sac of where the stuff is out to there. And then it's supposed to come out in the rectum with all the fecal material. So you manually express
I
them.
regret my question.
Yeah. By squishing the sack of stuff through the little pipe out the rear end. Okay. So it's like squishing a giant zit. Okay. And sometimes it looks like that because, and I mean, we make fun of it. It's disgusting. Owners don't like to talk about it, but it's really uncomfortable if you're a dog. I love expressing anal glands. It's one of the few things I get to do where instantly I know that dog feels so much better.
Yes.
Immediately. Okay. They can become impacted and infected. If they don't get expressed regularly. They become very uncomfortable to express. This is why I was getting paranoid. Yes. So, but here's the other thing. If you have a dog like, so this happens sometimes in German Shepherds, they have they can have an autoimmune disease that creates these fistulas, fistula, right? Fancy Latin doctor word for a hole, where it shouldn't be. And basically, it'll rupture. There'll be these anal fistulas. And so like if the anus is this little hole, like right here, you'll be like a little hole right here next to it. And we're at 5 and 7 where the little anal glands are. And that's not because necessarily their anal glands are full. It's because their immune system is screwed up and it's producing these fistulas. So if you have a German Shepherd, be on the lookout. If you have a German Shepherd that continues to develop anal gland abscesses, ask about that. Because you're never going to get uncomfortable. They're going to be miserable and uncomfortable because it's very painful until you get them on atopica or some other type of immune suppressant. Okay. Is that enough about anal glands?
I love that. I love that comment, Kathy. I'm glad that you regret that, but you shouldn't because it's such it's such important information. A lot of people don't know about anal glands and issues and whether their dogs are expressing them or not. And
that's right.
I had absolutely no idea until other people started talking about it. And I was like, what?
Yeah. And it's really, that's the thing. Owners should never, like, I frequently find myself, I have to tell, they're pet lovers, right? They love their dog. They come through the door of the clinic. They're instantly a good owner because they didn't have to come. And then, if I find an anal gland abscess that's ruptured, okay, that means that the little sac has ruptured out the skin because it was so infected. And so, it's an abscess, right? So it finds the closest path to the outside world. And so I bring their little fluff dog in and I'm like, no problem. We're going to fix this, right? I've got all the stuff out, right? I've cleaned it out and here's some antibiotics and I'm going to give them a shot to put that fire out as well. Cause that just is uncomfortable. And it'll be okay. And they almost cry because I can't believe I didn't know. How did I not know? Oh my God. And I'm like, hey, stop it. We don't do that here. We don't look back. It's all fixed now. And now you know for next time, right? So let's move on. But they'd never heard of anal glands. So how were they supposed to know?
Absolutely. That's such an important message for pet parents, especially. You don't know, right? You don't go to school to learn all this stuff like we do as professional. I love ending on that comment. We're at the hour. I have to give the CEU code for our PAC professionals. I'll put it in the chat box as well. But if everybody's listening, write this down, put it in your PAC portal. Hopefully you have that link open. CC 230015. I want to thank you so much, Dr. Jen, for being here with us. I can't believe how many questions we actually got through in the hour. That was fantastic.
Yes.
I have so many more questions, so maybe we have to do this again. Like, I just think this was phenomenal. I put up some links as well for you guys to learn a little bit more about the Chatfields. And if you don't know much about PAC, I put some links up there as well that you can kind of copy and paste and find your way to PAC as well. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. Thanks for your amazing questions. Thank you. This was amazing. And have a wonderful evening, everybody. Take care. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thanks.